All right, welcome back for our final deep dive into Hittite history.
It has been quite a journey.
It really has. We've seen them grow from humble beginnings in Anatolia to challenging the entire ancient Near East.
Becoming a major power.
Yes, in our past episodes, we saw them rise. But today,
Today we get to the good stuff.
we're diving into the peak of their power
The peak of their power.
and the most famous battles in ancient history.
One of the most famous, for sure.
The Battle of Kadesh against the Egyptians.
Yeah, and what I think is so interesting is their rise wasn't just brute force.
Right.
They balanced military might with diplomacy.
Yeah, that's a great point. So let's unravel that delicate dance.
Okay.
And I think we have to start with Suppiluliuma,
Sipiluliuma, yeah.
reigning from about 1344 to 1322 BCE.
No.
Yeah, and he's seen as the architect of the Hittite Empire.
The one who made them a true empire.
Yeah, he took them from a regional power to a true empire.
And he did it in such an interesting way.
He did, but he wasn't just a conquering hero.
No.
Although he was good at that.
But he inherited a kingdom that had lost a lot of territory.
Yeah, and he set out to reclaim it immediately.
He did, but he wasn't content with just restoring the old borders.
Yeah.
He envisioned a Hittite empire across the whole region.
Wow, so what did he do? What were his methods?
Well, think about this.
Mm.
You're a ruler in Syria, and you just saw your neighbor crushed by the Hittites.
Oh, no.
Their armies were
Not
scattered.
the best in the wind?
Yeah, what do you do? What would you do to survive?
Well, I definitely wouldn't want to fight those chariots.
Exactly. And that's what a lot of rulers in the region felt.
I can see that.
They saw what was coming and decided to become Hittite vassals.
Vassals.
Yeah, they would swear allegiance to the Hittite king
I see.
and pay tribute, but in return,
In return.
they would have autonomy and protection.
Wow, that's a really different approach.
It is.
But was it risky to rely on these vassals?
You're right. It could create weaknesses.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
You know, it's interesting that you bring that up because later on we're going to see that this reliance on vassals would contribute to their downfall.
Oh, wow.
But for the time being, it was a brilliant tactic.
It makes sense.
Yeah, because by incorporating their enemies, Suppiluliuma expanded Hittite influence without constant warfare.
And that frees up resources for other things.
Exactly.
So while Suppiluliuma is building his empire in the north,
Yes.
things are getting messy down in Egypt.
Really messy.
Yeah, we have the young pharaoh Tutankhamun passing away unexpectedly,
Right?
and his widow, Queen Ankhesenamun, in a tough spot.
A very tough spot.
What does she do?
I don't know. What does she do?
She reaches out to Suppiluliuma
She does.
for help. I mean, what did her letter even say?
Well, this is one of the most interesting parts of Hittite history.
Okay.
The Queen of Egypt.
Yeah.
This super powerful civilization.
Yeah. Right.
Pleading with the Hittite king.
What?
She even proposes marriage.
What?
She suggests Suppiluliuma send one of his sons to be pharaoh.
Wow, that's a power move.
It is.
That could have been huge for the Hittites.
A Hittite pharaoh ruling Egypt.
It would have sealed their dominance.
It would have been a total game changer.
So what happened?
Suppiluliuma was cautious,
Okay.
but intrigued.
Sure.
He sent an envoy to Egypt.
Makes sense.
But tragically, the prince was murdered
Oh, no.
before he could even meet the queen.
Wow, so what started as an alliance?
Became a source of tension.
And eventually war?
Yes, and it really shows how fragile power is.
Even at the height of an empire.
You're exactly right, and this set the stage for
The Battle of Kadesh.
the Battle of Kadesh.
Okay, let's set the scene for this epic showdown.
All right.
We have the Hittites, now led by Muwatalli II,
Suppiluliuma's successor,
facing the Egyptians.
led by Ramesses II.
In 1274 BCE.
1274, and the battleground is the city of Kadesh in Syria.
Okay, so why Kadesh?
Think of it as a crossroads,
Okay,
a gateway between the Hittites and Egyptians.
I see.
Controlling it meant controlling trade and resources.
Ah, a prize worth fighting for.
It was, and both sides assembled huge armies, massive, tens of thousands of soldiers,
Wow.
thousands of chariots.
The earth must have been shaking.
I bet.
So this wasn't just a skirmish.
No, it wasn't.
It was a clash of titans.
It's
The kind of battle poets would sing about.
Exactly. And in the early stages,
Yeah.
it seemed like the Hittites might actually win.
Really?
They used their superior chariots to outmaneuver the Egyptians.
They were good with those chariots.
They were the best.
So what happened?
Well, they even routed a whole division of Ramesses' army.
Wow, so they really had Ramesses on the ropes.
They did what made their chariots so effective.
Yeah, what was so special about them?
Well, the Hittites had mastered chariot warfare.
Uh-huh.
They developed these lighter and faster chariots.
Oh, so they were faster than the Egyptians.
They were, and much more maneuverable.
I see.
Plus, they had a unique three-man crew.
What? A three-man crew?
Yes, a driver, a shield bearer, and an archer.
Wow.
Speed, agility, and firepower.
That's a deadly combination.
It was, and for a while, it looked like they might capture Ramesses himself.
Whoa.
That would have changed history.
Yeah, it would have. But as you said,
Yes,
things didn't quite go to plan.
that's right. While they struck hard early on,
Okay.
they couldn't capitalize on their success.
Oh, yeah. What happened?
Ramesses was a resilient leader.
I see.
He rallied his forces
Oh, no.
and launched a counterattack.
And pushed back the Hittites.
Yes,
So the decisive victory turned into
a stalemate.
a stalemate.
A bloody and chaotic stalemate.
So neither side could claim a victory.
No, they couldn't.
Yeah.
And while the Hittites proved their strength,
Okay.
this battle exposed some vulnerabilities.
Vulnerabilities. Now that's interesting.
It is.
If Kanesh was such a monumental clash, why did the Hittites start facing problems right after? Did this stalemate somehow foreshadow their eventual decline?
That's a great question, and it's something historians still debate today. Some argue that the Battle of Kadesh, though technically a draw, really took it out of the Hittites. It drained their resources, weakened their alliances, and left them exposed to growing threats. But to really understand their fall, we need to look at the internal and external pressures they faced.
And that, my friends, is exactly where we will pick up in the next part of our deep dive. Stay with us as we explore what brought down the Hittite Empire. So before the break, we were asking this question. Did the Battle of Kadesh
This epic clash of empires.
plant the seeds for the Hittites' decline?
It's a fascinating idea, isn't it?
Yeah.
That sometimes, even when you're at your most powerful, cracks are forming.
Uh-huh.
And for the Hittites, those cracks were both internal and external.
Okay, so let's start with the internal pressures.
Right.
Earlier, we discussed Suppiluliumeo's system of vassal states.
Right?
But didn't that create some risks?
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Okay.
The same system that helped them grow quickly also made them vulnerable.
How so?
Think of a spider web.
The spider web.
Yeah, it's intricate and beautiful, but if you pull one thread,
What happened?
the whole thing can unravel.
I see. So what was the thread that unraveled the Hittites?
One major factor was internal conflict.
Like what?
Well, their system of succession wasn't always clear.
Oh, so what would happen when a king died?
Chaos.
Oh, no.
Princes would fight for the throne. Court officials would scheme, and the
Oh.
vassals would see an opportunity.
Break free.
Exactly. It was a powder keg waiting to explode.
And it did.
Yes, these succession crises would cause rebellions.
Across the empire.
The vassals, who used to be controlled by Hittite, might saw their chance.
And they rebelled.
They did, and that meant costly wars.
That drained their resources.
And their attention.
So they couldn't focus on external threats.
Right, and those threats were growing.
So this internal turmoil is setting the stage for outside forces to make their move.
You got it, and one of those forces was the Sea Peoples.
The Sea Peoples.
Now you might be wondering,
Who are they?
that's the mystery. We still don't know for sure.
So they're like a phantom menace.
Yeah, they appear out of nowhere and wreak havoc.
I remember reading about them.
Yeah,
Nobody knows where they came from or why they did it.
that's what made them so terrifying.
Okay, I see that.
They were like a force of nature.
So imagine you're a Hittite official on the coast,
Okay.
and you hear about these raiders attacking
There's ships on the horizon.
like locusts.
Yes. Towns are plundered. Trade is disrupted.
And everyone's terrified.
It must have felt like the world was ending.
So for the Hittites,
Already dealing with rebellions.
and low on resources,
This is a disaster.
they had to divert troops
And resources.
away from other problems.
Exactly. So you have internal strife weakening them from within,
Right.
and raiders attacking from the sea.
That's like a perfect storm.
It is. But there's one more threat.
Oh, right. The
I
Assyrians.
remember.
They were kind of the rising stars back then.
They were ambitious and powerful.
Always expanding.
They saw the Hittites weakening.
And took their chance.
The Assyrians started pushing west
So the Hittites are fighting rebellions, fending off sea raiders.
and trying to hold off the Assyrians.
That does seem like a perfect storm.
This is how empires often fall.
Okay.
It's rarely just one big event.
It's a combination of things.
Internal weaknesses, external pressures, sometimes bad luck.
And for the Hittites.
It led to a sad ending.
Yeah, earlier we talked about Hattusa, their capital city.
This powerful city,
Abandoned and left in ruins.
it really shows that even the greatest empires,
Right.
they don't last forever.
The Hittites were so powerful.
They controlled the ancient Near East.
And then they disappeared.
Their story is both triumphant and tragic.
But their story didn't completely disappear, did it?
No. They left behind a legacy.
And that's what we'll explore in the final part of our deep dive. Join us as we uncover the enduring legacy of the Hittites and discover how their innovations, their ideas, and their very essence continue to shape our understanding of the past and even influence the world we live in today.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard to believe that a civilization as influential as the Hittites could just vanish.
Yeah, it really is.
As we've learned,
Even the greatest empires.
they're not immune to the passage of time.
That's so true. And it's this paradox in history.
Okay.
We're drawn to these stories of rise and fall.
Right.
But we forget about the lasting impact.
Their legacy.
Exactly how these civilizations continue to shape us.
Okay, so let's talk about that legacy.
Okay.
When we think about the Hittites,
What should we remember?
I think it's important to realize that
Yeah.
they were more than just conquerors,
Okay.
more than just chariot battles.
So what else did they do?
Well, they were innovators,
Okay.
diplomats, cultural trailblazers.
And they left a real mark on the ancient world.
They did. So besides military stuff,
Yeah.
what did they excel at?
Law and diplomacy.
Law and diplomacy.
Now think about it. We take contracts and treaties for granted now.
Right.
But the Hittites were among the first
To do what?
to really formalize these things.
Right.
They had a complex legal system.
That influenced others.
Yes. So were you saying
Mhm.
that our contracts today
Uh-huh.
have roots in Hittite civilization?
I mean, that's what it sounds like.
Exactly. Their treaties were carefully documented,
Oh, wow.
often written on clay tablets.
Clay tablets.
Yes. And here's the interesting part.
Okay.
They called on the gods as witnesses.
Ooh.
So these agreements had this sacred element.
So it was more than just a political agreement.
It was a sacred pact.
Wow, that's incredible.
And it really raised the stakes of diplomacy.
It did. It made it more than just maneuvering.
Right. It became a bond with the gods.
Wow. So they really influenced the ancient world.
They did.
Yeah.
And a good example is the Treaty of Kadesh.
Oh, right. The treaty with Egypt.
Yes. Historians call it the earliest international peace treaty.
Really? That's amazing.
And it shows their diplomatic skills.
Uh-huh.
They knew peace with Egypt was crucial.
Yeah, for stability and all that.
Exactly. And the treaty's terms,
Yeah.
the divine invocations,
Became a model.
for others to follow.
It's fascinating that a civilization from so long ago
I know.
could shape international relations today.
And that's just one part of their legacy.
Okay, so what else?
Art, architecture, religion.
Okay.
Sadly, a lot of it was lost.
Oh, that's too bad.
But we have some amazing pieces.
Like what?
Sculptures, reliefs, pottery fragments.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of those Hittite reliefs.
They are pretty striking.
They're powerful and intense.
Yeah, their art is unique.
Yeah.
They were great at capturing movement,
Okay.
energy, scenes of hunting, battles, rituals.
Yeah, it all seems so dynamic.
It does, and their architecture was just as impressive.
Like Hattusa,
Yes. Think about that city.
built on a hilltop.
With massive walls and gates,
It must have been incredible to see.
it was a symbol of their power.
Yeah, before it was abandoned.
Yeah. And even though it's in ruins now,
Right.
excavations are still going on,
Oh, wow.
and we're learning more about their lives.
That's so cool. So even though their empire is gone,
Yeah.
we can still find them.
In those ruins, the art, the architecture,
And their laws are still with us.
in a way, yes. And here's another thing.
Okay.
The Hittites were also influenced by others.
Oh, really?
They absorbed and adapted elements from other cultures.
So they were learning from their neighbors.
They were masters of blending tradition.
And that created a unique culture.
Exactly. I think that's a good lesson for us.
What is?
This openness to new ideas.
Yeah.
It reminds us that diversity makes us stronger.
That's a great message, especially today.
It is.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
what's the one thing you want people to take away?
I would say this. Don't forget the Hittites.
Okay.
Just because they're gone doesn't mean they didn't matter.
I agree.
They achieved so much.
Yeah.
Their story is still relevant today.
So true.
They remind us that even empires fade,
Yeah.
but ideas can last.
Wow, that's powerful.
And who knows what legacies we're creating now?
That's a great question to end on.
It is.
And on that note, we want to thank you all for listening.
Thank you.
It's been an amazing journey through Hittite history.
It has.
We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did.
We hope so.
And remember, there's always more to discover.
Yes. Keep exploring
Keep questioning.
and keep diving deep.
Until next time, happy exploring.